Today I'm going to go over how I replaced the pinion seal on my front differential and how to remove the front drive shaft on the all-wheel drive car. It's for my 2018 Colorado. I have the 3.6 liter all-wheel drive, the Z71 model. If you are only doing the front drive shaft, it's actually a pretty simple job. All you need is a ratchet with a 10 millimeter and an extension as needed if you need it. Some green thread lock if you're going to reuse the bolts. When I took mine off, I noticed it had green thread lock on it. I believe that's what it was. So I got some more to put on it. It's recommended to replace the bolts altogether, but I reuse them, put the thread lock on, and then a little ink pen to mark where it goes back on if you're putting the original one back. Now, I also, in the next step, go over how to actually remove the pinion seal. That is going to take some extra specialty tools, which I will show you here. Let's step over to this side. Boop. Very important, you're going to need an impact. I use an air. You can use an electric, doesn't matter as long as it's an impact with a 30 millimeter to go over the nut. I also have the 1/2 inch ratchet just if I need it for this. Also important to have, you're going to need the harmonic balance polar kit. I got this EverTough one. It didn't have the bolts that I need, but I still used the actual polar and the center nut, and you use this for the center nut. That's the only reason that's there. A seal puller, this is important too. It helps you to be able to pull the old seal out. And then a rubber plastic mallet. You're going to use this, same thing. This is what you're going to use to put the new seal back in. There are some seal presses that you could use. I just use a hammer. I actually use this hammer, and I use just a regular steel hammer. So I put this up against it and hit it with the regular hammer. So if that's the method you use, you'll need another hammer as well. That covers it. The second part's a little bit more complicated than the first part, but this is all the tools that you're going to need. And as for the replacement seal that you're going to need, this is the one that I use. This is the GM part number. Obviously, I've already installed it. I'm just showing you the packaging that it came in if you wanted to use the same one. That's really it for parts, unless you do end up buying a whole new front drive shaft. But other than that, that's all we need. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's fix some cars. So to start, I have the truck up on ramps. Just drove it up on ramps. I have wheel chocks on the front and the back so it doesn't roll away. And if you'll notice, I have on 4-wheel drive. And the reason for 4-wheel drive is to go down under here. You find your forward drive shaft, front drive shaft, and you got all these bolts. You're gonna need to loosen those. Putting it in all-wheel drive locks this in so that it doesn't spin while you're trying to remove them. If you leave it in neutral, this will just spin as you're trying to loosen it, unless you use an impact. Now the reason I'm doing this is the pinion seal, which is back behind all of this, as you can tell, is leaking. And it's leaking bad enough that it comes down here and it drips. So I'm losing all the fuel, or I'm sorry, all the oil in there. So we got to get that replaced, or else you're just going to start running dry, which isn't good for it. Now both sides of this front drive shaft have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10 millimeter bolts. And then we'll come around and look at the back, and you're going to see the same thing, 6 10 millimeter bolts. So here I am with my 10 millimeter. Got an extension, got my ratchet. Now these can be in there kind of tight, so you may have to give it a little oomph. They have a thread lock on them that keeps them in. Now this top one is probably the most challenging to get. As you can see, it's just a few clicks and then loose. Your other option, because you're gonna have to do this all the way out with that thread lock. Your other option is you take the bottom, the 4 that are easy to see, take the bottom ones out, go up into the car, put it in neutral. When you put it in neutral, you can rotate the drive shaft and then expose the top ones down at the bottom. And once they're loose, if you can get them, you can probably just hold the drive shaft by hand and loosen them like that. Here's the front one. It's the same story, except the top two on this are even more difficult to get, because you got the exhaust pipe in the way. You can see. So, once I get them loose, I'll go up and rotate the drive shaft. Before I rotate it though, let me show you these top two. I was able to get the head of this up between the exhaust pipe and the drive shaft itself to loosen it. So same deal, just a few clicks at a time, and you'll be able to get it. But it takes longer, so I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the drive shaft. Truck's on, left it in park. Rotate this to 2 up. Shift in progress, you can hear it. Go. And then turn it off. I'm back underneath, and as you can tell, the drive shaft just spins right to where you need it. And then go back up, put the truck back in 4-wheel drive, and it'll lock it in place while you remove the rest of them. All right, so I got them all out. You can be very fastidious if you'd like and mark where each bracket and bolt came out of, but I'm not gonna do that. Once you get all the bolts out, if for some reason this thing is still stuck, you can actually go up in here with a rubber mallet. You may need to just knock this down. Same will be for the front. If all your bolts are loose, you just get your rubber mallet and knock it down. Heard it break, so I was tapping it. Just tapping it on the edge right here, and I gave it a slight hit right there, and there it comes. Now when I was removing the front one, I made sure to leave a couple of my bolts tight. That way if it fell, the whole thing didn't like fall on my head. Anyways, all these back ones have now been loosened, and it still isn't coming down. So it's gonna be basically the same strategy. You're gonna come up here with your rubber mallet, give it a few love taps. Maybe if you can reach from behind there, maybe not. There you go. Can't really do it, I'm holding this with one hand, and then it should come down. There it is, yeah. I just gave it a few taps right there, basically where this little balance weight is, and then it just came right down. And as you can see, you just slide it right out. And there it is, you got your drive shaft removed. Now, if you're not gonna continue and do this pinion seal and bearing, then you can just skip to that part where I put this thing back on if you need to see that. Okay, so what I'm doing here is marking this just for location, and then I'm gonna mark this right here. So what I wanna do is I wanna make sure that I know right where this is gonna be. I have a little bit of excess on the marks. It's kind of a mistake on my part, but I'll correct it. I'll just say, don't have multiple marks. Just put one mark right here and one mark on your nut, and then you'll know exactly what to do. Okay, as you can see with my drive shaft off, I put little markers here so we know where this sits in relation to that. I don't think it matters that much, the casing versus that, but I don't know. I like to be fastidious with it so as not to cause any problems. And then also here, I made sure to mark where my nut lines up with this shaft there. And the reason for that is that there's a preload set for this this nut on the bearing, so you need it to go exactly where it came back off of. There's no specified torque. What some people do is they measure exactly how many turns it was. I'm using this marking thing, so I have this little arrow pointing to where this needs to go. So I'll make sure to tighten it right back down to where it belongs. Now, for this part, you actually will need an impact wrench. You could put this in all-wheel drive and lock it up and start twisting to try to get the nut off, but you're gonna put a lot of strain on the transfer case there, and you don't wanna do that. So if you're doing this side, this is actually a 30 millimeter. If you're doing something on the back side over here though, this is a 29. So use a 29 on this one. I'm just going to show the front. You can see there's actually already markers. So you kind of follow the same process for the front as you would the back here. But I'm just doing this one for now since that's where my leak is. So I got my 30, got my impact. Get her up in there. Get it off. All right, and there it is. And pardon me, you saw when I was hitting it, it was spinning. I actually just held it with one hand and used the impact on the other. And just like that, she's come right off. Okay, here's the strategy that I employed for taking it off. As you can see, I got a puller here. I used 3 of the bolts that are from here. Put the puller on, and then, as you do, you just press, and you can see it's slowly releasing. It's not too difficult. I would caution you about using the bolts from the drive shaft itself. There's a potential you could damage them, especially if this is in there really tight. So do this at your own risk using those bolts. The bolts that came with my puller just didn't fit, so I'm improvising. Again, do this at your own risk. This is working for me, but be aware if you damage these bolts here, you may have to replace them. So I'm just going to keep pressing this down in there until it comes free. Okay, so when this is finally removed, it should pull off now. Well, I'll keep going. When this is finally removed though, some oil could potentially drip out. So have a oil pan underneath here ready to catch it if it does. No oil dripped out. I'm probably really low on oil, so it's not going to. Your next job, next tricky bit, is to get the seal out. I use this seal puller. It helps a lot. You can see it moving at the bottom a little bit. Now this, with the seal removed, is going to leak out. So be aware of that. You definitely want this tool because you're gonna destroy this thing trying to get it out without it. And by this thing, I don't just mean the gasket, I mean potentially your entire, there we go, case. Got it. And you can see the oil's dripping down. Oops. Alright, as you can tell, I went ahead and I cleaned up the seat. This is another one of the benefits of doing the job yourself, besides saving money, is you know you've done it right, you know what you're looking at, and you know how it's been done. So I went ahead, I cleaned it up really well, got some of the old oil out, some of the gasket junk that was left over, and let's go look at the gasket, or the seal itself. Okay, so here's the 2 seals. This is the new one right here next to the old one. Obviously the old one I got a little bit dented up when I was pulling it out, but that's okay. You can see the blue gasket here. It's kind of pressed on. Some of it left itself on the differential. That's all right, I just kind of rubbed that off like I showed. And here's the new one. It comes with this little blue seal here. There's actually even a little bit of grease on the inside. This dust does not belong, take that off. But that's really all there is to it. So let's go ahead and get the new gasket on. Okay, so here's the seal. I'm getting ready to put it on. As you can tell, I put a little bit of grease all along the edge just to kind of coax it in, and put a little bit along here too. Not a lot, just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get this in, and I found the best way is I'm actually just gonna take a rubber mallet and slowly go around. Now be careful you don't wanna damage or bend any of this up, or else you'll be getting another seal. So I got the seal completely seated. It was a little bit of a fuss. What I ended up doing actually was I took my rubber mallet here and I would hold it against that, and then I would take my regular hammer and actually hit. You can see I'd hit against the rubber there, and that actually nicely seated it all the way around. Make sure that it is fully seated, even back behind here. It's a little bit tough to get to, but you can get around and press it all in there. So once the seal is on, that's really it. We're ready to start putting it back together. So for the reinstallation, and take the spindle, I actually put the car back into 4-wheel drive just to kind of lock that up, make it easier to tighten it. So I'm gonna go ahead and line up my yellow line here. With the yellow line there. Again, assuming you didn't turn it at all. Should line up pretty well. Not important though, but I don't know, I'm being a little bit extra. So to get this in, what we're gonna do is just kind of tap with the rubber just enough so that the the nut can grab the threads, and then that can actually press it on the rest of the way. Just give it a little tap, hit it a few times, get it started, and then you can put the nut on. And with that on and it in 4-wheel drive, you can actually get your nut and tighten it the rest of the way down until it stops, and then you can get the impact and get it so it lines up to where it needs to be. Okay, like I said, just tighten it until it's tight and it doesn't go on anymore. You may need to get the ratchet to put it on a little bit further, a 1/2 inch or whatever you need to get it on there, because you don't want to over tighten it. Like I said, you don't want to go beyond the preset for the bearings. I used my ratchet to get it the rest of the way. Now I can't turn it anymore. It's about as tight as I can get it. And you'll notice the whole thing kind of starts to move a little bit. That's about as tight as you can go. Now, all I have to do is get that to there with my impact. So just a slight few ugga-duggas, and that should be enough to get it done. So I already gave it a few, but just to show you, you go. Now, it's tightened, and you go in, and you can see that I'm lined up right to where I was. So that should be about the same on the preload. So you won't need to torque anything from there. After that, you should be done with your job. We're gonna put the drive shaft back on and make sure you replace any missing fluids. All right, now onto the drive shaft. For the bolts, as you can tell, like I said, there's quite a bit of that green Loctite on there. I'm actually gonna go ahead, I'm gonna clean these off and probably put a little bit more of the green on there, just to clean this up and get everything as good as new. You can choose to do this or not. I just prefer to. I feel like if you take care of it, it'll take care of you. So hopefully we won't have to open this up anytime soon, and all of your bolts will hold tight. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done on all of these, and then we'll show how to get the drive shaft back in. So it's you kind of shove it up into the exhaust here so that it marries there, and then you shove it up here so that it kind of marries there. And be careful, you don't want this to fall on your head. Now I have a bolt ready with some of the thread lock green on it. Once it's lined up, you just screw the bolt in. I'm sorry that was kind of shaky, but I hope you understand the idea of how it was done. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Got it. What I did is kind of the opposite of how we put it in. When the whole thing's out, you shove it up into the back first so that it meets back there. Then you tighten the one bolt. Then you can lift it up here, because of course it's lined up there, and then you tighten the one bolt here as well. I did it on this side. I do have the car back in neutral, because if this has been spinning around and stuff, it may not necessarily meet up perfectly with the back. But with that said, you just kind of rotate it around a little bit and meet it up where you need it to go. And don't forget to put these back in too. So it's 6 on each side. I'm gonna go ahead and get them hand tight, and then we'll torque them down. Okay, as for the torque, I couldn't find the official torque. So I'm actually sticking with 35. It seems like a good number. It's not too tight, not a little loose either, especially with this green Loctite on there. Should be okay. As a good strategy when putting these on, as you can tell, I have it back in all-wheel drive. Pardon that loud sound. But skip one. So you do one, you skip it, you do the next, you skip it, you do the next, and then you do the same for the other 3. All right, now that everything's bolted back in, I took it out for a test drive. Everything seems to be going well. I'm going to attach to the end of this video actually how to replace the front differential fluid. It might come out as well as a separate video, but since I don't think I'll have it quite published yet, I'll just throw it in as a bonus for this one in case you needed to replace it or add any fluid to what you've lost after the job. But anyways, that should be it. Stay tuned for the final where I do the differential change, or if not, thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave any comments, what worked for you, what didn't, and what you think could have been done better. This guy was waiting for me outside my garage, making sure we're doing it right. I'm gonna go over how to replace the differential fluid. Really all you need to get it done is a 3/8 inch ratchet and a torque wrench with 3/8 inch. I use this Permatech thread sealant, and I use this Valvoline 7590 gear oil. I like this package. It actually made it really easy to be able to go in and just squirt it in without needing to use a pump or any fancy jimmying or anything like that. It just goes right in and fills it right up. So that's what I do. If you need a pump or something, that's going to be on you, but I definitely recommend this. It's worth a little bit extra on the price if you ask me. Really, it's easy because you're just going to fill it until it doesn't hold anymore, and we'll go over that in detail once we get to the actual job. It's important to have it level. I can fit underneath it. So here's your front differential right here, and you'll notice you got this top bolt and this bottom plug. So first, we're gonna undo the top one. Top one is pretty simple. I'm just gonna take our 3/8 inch ratchet, no socket or anything, just put it on there, and you loosen it. This is on there a little tight. When I did the rear one, it wasn't on that tight, but that's okay. So, just loosen it with that, and once it's loose, you should just be able to take it out with your hand. Put that back under. Now, there could be some fluid that comes out. Mine had a small leak, so that's why you're not going to see any come out. And the next one, we're going to take the plug from the bottom here and remove that, and that is when all the oil is going to start coming out. I'm probably just going to let the plug fall down into the bin and pull it out later because I don't want to get oil all over my hand. Stuff stinks. There it goes. All right, so we'll let that drain. All right, here's the top one removed, and here's the bottom one. There's a lot of metal shavings in this bottom one. A lot more than when I took the rear off. A little concerning, but I guess it's not super surprising considering this thing's had a leak, so it's probably very short on oil. So I'm gonna get all this cleaned up, and we'll put it together and get the oil in. All right, so I got it all cleaned up, got all the metal shavings taken care of. Put some of this thread sealant with PTFE on it. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it on the differential. All right, so I got my paper towel and I actually cleaned all up in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this. Remember, the one with the back magnet goes on the bottom. And we'll simply screw it in. There we go. Got it. Now, after this, we'll go ahead and torque it down. All right, so I got my torque wrench here. I've gotten mixed reviews of what the actual torque is. Kind of heard 24, 25. I'm going with 25. It's only 1 foot-pound more, and it's a little bit more on the conservative side. So I'll just tighten this to 25, and then we'll put the oil in for the top once it's tight. So I got my 7590 gear oil. I like it in this package. It makes it easy to put in. Just put the nozzle in there, and you're able to squeeze the whole bag, and it just squirts it in. Now, like any differential, it's about a quart, well, I guess it's about 1.5 quarts, but like any differential, you really just fill it up until it starts to weep out of the bottom of the hole. So this is one that I have. This is about 1/2 quart in this bag. Get 2 of them. I got this one from Walmart. But you just fill it in, like I said, until it's full. Let it weep out a little bit as it does, and then we'll put the top plug on. Cleaned it all out. Kind of cleaned the face of it. It's quit weeping out of the hole for the most part. So I put the thread lock, cleaned up my, the thread sealant. Oops. Cleaned up my plug. I'll go ahead and put it on. So we're gonna torque it down to 25. Go. And we're all good. Take it for a test drive, make sure there's no leaks, and that's all there is to it. Nice work. Feel free to like, subscribe if these videos helped you, and definitely leave any comments of what worked for you or what you think could have been done better. Thanks a lot.